So let's also quickly do the math on this.
Okay.
For a ticket that's 300, you got $15,000 for 50 people. Times that by 10 weekends, you now have $150,000
Just by
for
hosting dinner.
10 dinners.
Pretty sure that's worth it.
As a pig enthusiast, I get a lot of people who ask me, Pork Rhyne, how can we actually be profitable when it comes to raising pigs? In this consultation, we're going to be talking about not just the profitability, but also the production. We're going to have a farmer who's already doing a pretty good job when it comes to production, growing out, but she has some areas where she wants to fine tune and really tweak to make it better. We're also going to talk about how she can possibly have $110,000 in gross revenue when it comes to raising only 10 pigs. Now, you might think that's impossible because a lot of you might be interested in retail cuts, but there is a possibility when it comes to actually putting on farm-to-table dinners. So if you're interested and you're like, oh my God, I want to make more money when it comes to raising pigs or any other livestock, stay tuned in this consultation. If you don't know who I am, I'm Pork Rhyne, the Pork Evangelist, international agribusiness educator and coach. I have trained over 5,000 full-time farmers and homesteaders when it comes to actually being profitable on a farm business. So if you're interested in any of that, keep watching the consultation and let me know what you think. Good, good. So what we're going to do is I'll want you to just introduce yourself and who you are, and then why you're seeking consultation, and out of all people, why someone like me. That sound
Okay.
cool?
Yeah. So my name is Brianna Wyden, and my husband and I run a livestock farm here in Washington. We have pork, beef, chicken, and lamb.
You said pork. Yes.
Yeah. And one of the real reasons that I really wanted to reach out to you too was because I have a couple of questions on some of the opportunities that fell into our lap and how we can utilize them efficiently on the farm, especially feed-wise. Yeah.
All
Uh-huh.
right, that's what I'm talking about. All
Yeah.
right, keep it coming.
Yeah. So we recently had a recent opportunity fall into our lap. And one of those things is a local almond butter facility. A local almond butter facility has reached out and asked us if we want their discard almonds. And it is a massive opportunity, but we're also trying to figure out how it plays into our feeds and our nutrition for our hogs. And then in the same month, we had a cheesemaker of raw cheese reach out to us and ask if we wanted their discard sweet whey that is unsalted. So I know, I was literally like,
God
wow.
must love y'all.
yeah, literally fell into our lap all at the same time. And it's been one of those things that we've always stuck with a pre-made mix. And so we're a little nervous to venture outside of that, but also really excited because our mixed feed has gone up like 200% in the last 2 years. So we're really wanting to take advantage of these opportunities.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Can I just say that it's good to be loved, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. It totals out to be 3,600 pounds of almonds per month and about 425 gallons of whey per week that we have the opportunity to use.
3,600 pounds almonds, and then how many gallons of whey?
425 gallons. I know. I'm like, so basically.
And how many animals you got?
Right now, I'm not exactly sure what our numbers look at right now, but we just relocated to a new farm that's going to give us the ability to up our numbers too. I want to say we have 50 head on the ground at the current moment, something like that.
50 head of what?
Of pork. So 50 head.
Pigs.
Yeah. And our hope is to up our numbers because our facilities will allow us to now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about pigs first, and then we'll want to talk about a couple other enterprises. First of all, I'm glad you raised pigs. I love pigs. Thank you for being here. Pigs on average, and will eat about 5 pounds of feed a day, and this is just from an average point. When they're younger, they're going to eat less. When they're older, they're going to eat more. So, what kind of breed are you raising? Because that will dictate a lot of what you might be doing.
Yeah. So we raise a Duroc Berkshire cross with, I think our boar has GOS.
They're Spark plus GOS. Okay. That's not bad. So you're going to get a really meaty pig. So then the main thing is keeping that quality based on protein. They're going to desire, their body is going to desire a need for more protein in comparison to a lot of the other breeds that are more lardy. They're going to use that feed for mostly converting fat rather than muscle. Whereas in Duroc, Berkshire, and even GOS will do a good job converting all the feed into muscle. So almonds, one thing I'm not 100% sure, but I want you to do your research on is
Okay.
determining whether or not it will have a softer fat or a harder fat. My guess is it probably be a little bit more on the softer side.
Okay.
So that will affect your quality. Not necessarily in a bad way, but just understand that you might come out with softer fat if you're making that a heavy part of their diet. I'm
Okay.
also not sure of protein content as well. Hold on a second. One thing you can do is go online, look at crude protein of, and what type of almonds you're getting. Almond, what?
They're whole almonds.
So this would not be a bad feed ingredient. If you want to add that with your whey, which is sweet whey, I think those two combined will work really well. My only thing is I want you to talk with a feed specialist, and I have someone in mind for you. And I'll have to give you her number. Just kind of figure out like what's the best ratio. You might need still a little bit of grain, but not a lot. Your main thing is really going to be a need for minerals. I'm not sure if this will be 100% a complete ration. I think it's a great ration, and I'd love to see how they turn out on that. But my concern would be just making sure that they have enough protein content. I think almonds are just a little bit lower on protein in comparison to soybeans or maybe some of the other small grains that you use if you're doing a non-GMO program. So that'd be another thing that I'd recommend for that. Whey is going to be great. You will get protein from the whey, so that would help offset it. So really, your biggest thing would be maybe carbohydrates.
Okay.
And that's really important for pigs. The reason why it's important for your particular breed of pig is because you have meaty pigs. If they don't have enough carbohydrates in their diet at the end of life, last 2 months of life, what will happen is they will become very meaty pork, not a lot of fat. And one thing I tell people is fat is where the flavor is at. Amen. It's important to make sure that they're going to have plenty of carbohydrates, at least at the last 2 months of life. So I think this will be fine, plus forage that they're able to get, plus minerals. You can mix that in. You don't need a whole lot of minerals. In fact, I've been telling some folks to add the minerals to the water, depending on what type of water system you have. So minerals, maybe consider some more carbohydrates at the last 2 months of life. But this is a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Regardless, very good. Again, the almonds might affect the quality of your fat. I don't think it's going to be a very firm fat. So just keep that in mind. But I think this is perfect. Most people in the country of the United States of America right now are killing themselves over how high their feed bill is. And you literally have been handed a gold mine of feed opportunity. So I'd say take it. But the other thing is, you said 3,600 pounds of almonds a week or a month.
Yeah, the almonds are a month.
So then let's say on average, they eat 5 pounds. Let's see. So we're doing some quick math. All right, you got 50 pigs, times that by 5. They're eating about 250 pounds of feed a day on average. All right. So then if you got 600 pounds in a month, divided by 250. All right. So actually, you might need more than that. Yeah, you're going to need more feed because it's only going to be like 14 days.
Yeah.
So you'll still technically need feed, I think. You just won't need a lot.
Okay.
So 50% of the feed that you would normally get. That sound fair?
Yeah. I'll take it.
So you at least reduce your feed costs to 50%, you'll be just fine. And then gallons of whey, I think that should be pretty good. And that's also a month, 425 gallons.
That one's per week.
per week. Okay, so when it comes to that much weight, how much acres do you have?
We farm a total of 120, but the
Okay,
hogs are on 10 and a half.
gotcha. Yeah, they're not gonna be able to drink all that a
Yeah.
week. So that way actually would work a lot better. What you don't use would work really well for fertilizing your fields.
Okay.
People who fertilize their fields with whey, they're like, oh wow, our fields have grown from that.
Right.
So that would be something I'd recommend as well for that. Because oftentimes people will get a lot of byproducts, but they won't use it all. And that's where it will go directly into your pasture management system, doing it that way.
Okay.
That was simple and easy. Again, that's not really a huge concern now that you actually have something. So my next thing would be, what are your goals for raising pigs? A, how much are you charging a pound on average?
Yep.
And then what markets are you selling to?
We only do retail, so we're only direct to consumer now.
Okay.
And we no longer sell shares, so every cut has a little bit of a different price. But yeah, so we had a really hard time with our custom producers or our custom butchers being able to get us in. So because of that, we have converted entirely to USDA, and we can just guarantee more pigs getting processed that way. And it's a more reliable schedule. So right now our ground pork is $11 a pound. Yeah, I had to go through and crunch a lot of numbers, but I'm grateful to see that you don't think I'm nuts.
No, man, let me tell you. So, yeah, let's talk about this. I've talked to a lot of folks, even through the series of Washington State consultations I've been doing, and
Yeah.
some of them are producing pork or other products. And I'm like, okay, we charge this much money in North Carolina. Some of y'all are below that number that we would charge in North Carolina. Our cost of living, our minimum wage is still $7.25. I don't know how or why, but that's still it. Y'all are definitely above that. Y'all have higher expenses than cost of living. So why aren't you charging more? I think you selling ground pork at $11 is perfect. How much you selling bacon for?
$21 a pound.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. And we have cottage bacon, loin bacon, jowl bacon,
Mhm.
and belly bacon.
Good, good.
They all sit right at that $21 a pound.
That's good. A lot of people don't realize that you can turn a lot of the pig into bacon.
Yeah.
If you have a processor who'll do it, that you just make more money on bacon than anything else. If the word bacon is attached to it, you'll sell out. That's awesome. I'm so proud of you. There are a lot of folks who are so insecure about not their pricing, but of themselves, that they wouldn't want to go further than that and risk it. So let me ask you, what's been the key to that success exactly? Has it been your markets? Has it been your marketing strategy? Has it just been your internal confidence? What's allowing you to set that bar so high when it comes to making that much money?
I did a whole bunch of market research on people raising pork the way we raise it instead of comparing grocery store and stuff like that. So I felt like my pricing wasn't that far out of the ballpark when I actually compared it to people doing what we're doing. Instead of saying, oh, pork is only $6 a pound for bacon in the grocery store, and so that's what I need to charge, we turned around and said, okay, we have pastured pork, so we know it's going to be less feed efficient. We've got all these different pieces of the puzzle, and then we marketed those. We really honed in on telling that story and why it's going to be more expensive. And I think that has really given us a leg up just from the beginning. Yeah. And we worked really hard to not be forced into wholesaling anything. Yeah. So we're processing about 100 pigs a year total right now, and we'd like to double that. Yeah. Just because.
Well, with all that extra feed, that'll be easy.
Yeah, exactly. And we have, we are moving to a farm that has a little bit better, the ground itself is going to allow us to do that instead of it being so seasonal. So we won't have to worry about pigs being outside in mud and cold weather. And they do fine in the cold weather, but they definitely don't do well in standing water in cold weather. Yeah, so we definitely have honed in on what's working for us. And then instead of trying to make it work where we were, we've ended up relocating our farm to make it work there. And it's actually an old dairy farm.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. With a bunch of woods. Yeah.
Man. Again, I'm proud of y'all. I'm so
Hey.
proud of y'all.
Hey.
Y'all are doing everything. I'm not gonna say everything right, but because I don't know what you're doing wrong exactly. But what I will
There's
say
a lot.
is yeah, you're doing all the right things in terms of really treating your farm like a business. There are some people who are so attached to their land, and for a lot of reasons that they wouldn't even think about moving.
Yeah.
So again, good job on the pricing, good job on the relocation, and thinking about how do I scale my business outward and having the market to do that. Good job on just the different products that you have. Let me ask you, in terms of the amount of pork that you do provide, what's the number of that product list? Is it a lot or is it more minimalized?
We've minimalized it. We do, yeah. We used to offer every cut you could possibly get, but we saw that some things sell and some things don't sell. And I make a better margin on cottage bacon than I do shoulder roasts. So we sat here and thought, what's going to be the best options, and went that direction. And we downsized the size of some of our cuts too, so that we're not, people just don't want to buy a $60 pork shoulder roast. They don't. But if we cut it in half and charge the same amount, then they're more excited for some reason. So we definitely have pared down. And then we also figured out cuts in the spring are going to be different than the cuts in the fall, because people they're just not grilling their ribs. They're not. So we do bone-in pork chops in the fall through until grilling season. And then we start offering baby backs again. And that has seemed to really do really well. The one thing that was really hard this year, and I will say I made a really big mistake, was hams. I don't make very much on hams. In fact, it was like I feel like we're giving this away, because people wanted a 7, 8, 9 pound ham. And I had to charge a lot of money for that ham. And I did not price it correctly last year. I knew that, and I realized that. And that's definitely something I'm going to have to sit down at the drawing board the minute we start cutting in October for those seasonal hams. That was a big mistake. We sent out hundreds of pounds of pork that should have never been priced as low as it was. Yeah, it was really rough. And we've had a lot of learning curves. One of our favorite pork USDA processors here in Washington closed. Yeah. And we got, I think it was like 450 pounds of ground sausage back from them that was not flavored correctly. And they were closed. So there was no ramifications. There was no fixing it. There was no nothing. It's been a process. There's only one processor in the entire state of Washington that is open to the public that can do bacon. So I know I'm like, I feel like this is a new business venture. Yeah. It's our dream to open a kitchen, or not a kitchen, but a facility that'll do value-added products for people. Salamis, pepperoni. Yeah. One day.
Going back to them hams.
Yeah. Whoops.
You're not alone, and it's okay. It happens. Unfortunately, ham is usually pretty big, so I'm pretty sure you did lose a good bit of money on that. But I tell folks, if something doesn't sell after the first year, normally if someone's getting started with pigs, I tell them, okay, have all the cuts for the first year, sure, whatever. But on year 2, whittle it down to 5 cuts.
Okay.
For you, it's a little different because you have a lot of bacon products. So I'd say don't ever whittle those down. Keep as many of those as possible. People love bacon. But for all the other fresh cuts, I would recommend keeping it small and simple, because a lot of people think variety. Oh, if you give them more variety, they'll come to us. What variety does, and this has been proven through research and through statistics from a marketing standpoint, is that the more variety people have, it makes it harder for them to make a decision. And then oftentimes they're like, oh, I don't have the same buy-in or the same predictability. People like predictability and stability. Having a smaller list helps them with that in life, psychologically speaking. So I think you guys keeping it small after realizing what works and what doesn't work is really important. Now, some things with the hams that you can do. I don't know if your processor will do cured hams, like sliced, deli slice. That would be something that I would ask and see if that works. Don't do all your hams like that. Just do a small batch, test it out, see if it sells or not, and then the rest can go into ground pork or whatever you want it to be. And I think that should be fine. But a lot of people think they want ham, but they're not willing to pay the price, similar to what you realized with roast. So just keep them small, or do what you did last time and just have smaller hams. I think that'll be a lot better as well. Well, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, yeah, most certainly. We sold a few 12, 13 pounders
Wow.
and it was wild. It was wild. I know. And those ones, I sold them for ground pork prices and I shouldn't have, only because I just didn't even, the hardest part was we pre-sold them because yeah, so our processor didn't have space for us until late November. And so I wasn't getting them back. I wanted them sold so people could commit to having they knew we would be able to provide it for them instead of the week before Christmas, finally having it in our hands. I will never do that again. I will never pre-sell a cut I don't have in my hand. I learned that the hard way. And then of course on paper, they had an upcharge for the hams, but then there was additional upcharges we just didn't even realize would come with it. So we were basically broke even on those hams, even at ground pork prices. Yeah. So adding deli slices, that would be amazing because then I can make smaller packages too of just a couple pounds or just 1 pound or yeah. And then turn around and that's just an additional, I like that a lot.
And then here's the kicker. You can charge more per pound.
Yeah.
Because it's sliced for their convenience.
Yeah. One of the things we started doing this last year too was doggy boxes. So it sounds kind of odd, but we have a hard time utilizing the whole pig. People don't really want pork kidney. It's not really a common sold product. So we started having those packaged and anyway, liver, kidney, heart, all that kind of stuff. And we make a doggy box. And so people who feed raw dog food, it's $3 less per pound than our ground pork prices, but they get it in a box of, it's like 15 pounds of various different cuts of offal that we normally wouldn't really have a market for. That's added a little bit of value.
That'll work. I got some folks who are dehydrating all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
To make it shelf stable. So that's another thing that you might want to consider. I know to make it into, you just got to be mindful what your state's pet food laws are. Shouldn't be super complicated though. Another thing I was going to ask you is snack sticks. Are you selling snack sticks?
We have not been able to find a kitchen or anyone that can. That's the big kicker is that within about 700 miles, we can't find anyone that will either doesn't do it or can't do it. Like I said, there's only the one facility. We drive about 360 miles to them one way to deliver hogs, for our processing. And that alone just has such an upcharge right now just because of the price of fuel. Yeah. And that processor is not cheap because they know they've got a corner on the market.
Literally, they got the whole block.
Yeah. Yes, they do.
That's great.
So they do charge a lot to process pigs. They charge a lot to process anything, but it definitely is a price per pound most people don't see. Yeah.
I feel like you are, again, and this is really not to flatter you. This is just me saying you really are doing a lot of things right. You're in the right direction. Yeah. All I gotta do is just keep going forward. I don't see you having any problems. The one thing I would be mindful of is having contingency plans if, for whatever reason, something happens to that processor.
Okay.
I have folks who are out in the Pacific Northwest, not necessarily Washington, who are having to drive their pigs out to somewhere closer to Iowa to get processing done. But the caveat to that is they send tractor trailer loads at a time. So it's not they have to drive further, but they're making it efficient by scale. So think about that from that perspective. If you needed to find another processor, who would you go to? Because the last thing you want to do is for to scramble to figure that out. At least having that in the back of your mind will be very helpful to do. Another thing with snack sticks, we got some folks, and I even managed a farm where we shipped not pork, but beef out to a facility, and they would bring back, like we were shipping out like rounds and chuck roasts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And in about a month or so, maybe a couple weeks, some month, we would get them back as snack sticks and they'd be packaged, they'll have the labels and
Yeah.
everything, even some barcodes on them. So consider that as an option as well. If you feel like you can make very good money, especially going into, let's say, the fitness and trail market. So people who are hikers, people who are out on trails, people who are, let's say, on keto, doing CrossFit or something like that, or simply like a busy mom who has an active life and their kids have very active lives in sports. Being able to have something as simple as a snack stick that is shelf stable, you can find a very good market for that and a very good price for that. So I would encourage you to look at that. I think for shipping that meat over, obviously you would need dry ice.
Yeah.
And you'd have to figure out what the wait time would be for that. But do a test round with your beef, with some pork, and see what happens. But I definitely think that could definitely be an option for you as well.
Okay. Yeah.
So cool. Now we got the pork part figured out. A lot of people, they're usually here in a crisis and they don't know what to do. You're not in that situation per se, despite having a hectic life with moving. So my question is, what are your dreams? What are you dreaming about doing for this new farm? What are some goals that you want to have that you're trying to figure out how to achieve? How do you want to dream big today?
Yeah. Actually, to be honest with you, our biggest, between the two of us, my husband and I, our biggest dream is to, one, open a restaurant. We really want to open a restaurant. But two, we want to open our own value added kitchen. I don't want to say facility because I don't want to process pork necessarily. It would open so many doors. There is a pork processor just 30 miles from us who can cut it into cuts or ground, but there is no kitchen that can make it into snack sticks or stuff like that. So if I can turn around and have a USDA licensed kitchen, and we have the ability to do it here on the new farm, if I could do that, I think not only would it be an amazing business venture for our farm in the fact that we could turn around and make bacon for other people or other producers, but it also would give us a niche where we could make our own snack sticks just for our farm and keep those certain things for us. And I think our margins could go through the roof if we actually did that. And I think it would pay for itself pretty quickly. It's just a matter of checking the boxes and getting it done, because literally there is no other processor within 300 and 700 miles that can do pork the way yeah. And so we've niched ourselves into a corner, and I think that's the next big step for that niche. Yeah,
Okay.
I know.
Gotcha. That's exciting.
It's a little wild. I think we're crazy.
Here's what I'd say to that. Since y'all are doing so good as we speak, like you're not having this idea, but still failing at every single other aspect of your farm, I think you can pull this off. My priority, I think, would be to have the value-added kitchen space, the
Okay.
inspected kitchen space. I make that the first priority. The restaurant part, be very mindful. Once you start doing brick and mortar, you start losing out on a lot of advantages compared to folks who just do catering, even if it's catering onto their property.
Yeah.
And that's when you get into agritourism, which is really important. One thing I tell people is the future of pork for small scale producers is not going to be in raw cuts, not in holds and halves. The future of pork is going to be, in you being successful and profitable, is going to be in high end value added products like charcuterie, snack sticks, soaps and salves. There's another folk from Alluvia Farms who I will be working with. She does the lard CBD solves. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I told her to increase her prices because her price was good, but I know that it could be better. So if you want to get that stuff, get it before she increases her prices. Me and her talking, like she would make out of a pound of that solve $179 a pound. So again, I'm saying, do you want to be a poor person and peddle pork, raw pork for years and still not be able to scale, or do you want to scale big quick? And I think that's something that you can do with the high-end value-added kitchen. So there are going to be some regulations to that, some resources I want you to look into. I'll send you an actual farmer in Georgia. She does her own charcuterie. She's mostly known for Maison prosciutto, and she'll help you out with just understanding like the real life aspects of what it means to be able to process your own pigs, not slaughter them, just process them. So I'll give you her contact information. Also, I want you to check out InPan. That's the niche meat processors assistance network. That's ran by Rebecca Thistlethwaite. She's a good mentor and friend of mine, and she'll give you another aspect of what to look out for. We have a website as well. I think it's npam.org. So check that out, and you'll see a lot of the questions that you might have already being answered there. Let's see what else. With value-added kitchens, I think it's a good idea. Here's the thing. I need you to think about this. You're already farming. You have 4 different enterprises. How are you going to have time to do also a kitchen? Where's the time going to come in? How are you going to figure that part out?
It's a good question.
I know, that's why I asked.
Yeah, we definitely, the other thing, a lot of our customer base is local, but we have a growing customer base that is Seattle area and outside of our state too, because we do ship every Tuesday. And we need to scale that and get that honed in, and no mistakes, and that really figured out. And I would love to be able to pass that torch onto a warehouse manager, because we have some pretty amazing people in our life that already help us every Tuesday. And one of the gals who does so good at it, and it's her jam, and she volunteers. She literally comes and volunteers and just hangs out with us, and every single Tuesday. Yeah. And she helps us pack a large number of boxes. I shouldn't say large. We're packing like 20, 24 boxes a week. So we're doing good there, but I need to hone in on the things we're already doing and get them solidified. And then it's going to take a long time, I think, to even get a kitchen like this up and running. And the other thing too is finding someone who knows how to do it all, because that's a skill, that's an art. And if we can't find the right person to help us at least make some sort of recipe that's going to be a consistent one that we can do, is going to be a piece of this puzzle that's key.
And yeah, again, you're super blessed, in case you didn't, I hadn't already told you that 1,000 times. But I will say, you having, and that's the one thing about a lot of farmers, is they don't want to ask for help. I had a conversation with one of my best friends who's farming in Wisconsin. And he was like, oh, I don't know if I want to have an employee. But then he had all these big dreams and aspirations for his farm. And I was like, in order to do all that stuff, you'll need an employee. Otherwise, you'll be stressed out, tired all the time. Your wife might file for divorce on you because you're never home. Like, your kids might not love you anymore because you're never home. It's really important for people to look at it from that perspective. They don't have to be an expert starting out. I think you found someone or people who are willing to grow and learn with you. Even with the woman I had mentioned earlier, her name's Laura Jensen of the Jensen Reserve and AMBA, American Maison Breeders Association, and Maison Preserve. She does her own prosciutto with that breed. And she has several people working on her farm, both actually doing the actual farming part and working in her kitchen. And so she's spending a lot of her time doing the marketing and the business aspect of her business. So that'd be one thing that I would consider you moving towards, is as you keep moving forward, you're going to be doing less of the hands-on things. That's what's just going to naturally happen. And you're going to find yourself spending 80% of your time doing the actual business and marketing stuff. People who are successful in any small business are spending more time marketing and working on the business rather than actually doing the production line stuff. So if you want to really be successful either you focus on that or you hire someone who will focus on that for you.
Yeah.
But I think you gravitate towards you focusing on that, which I think is great. So once you talk to Laura Jensen, let me know how that goes, because she'll give you insight on how to train people in the art of breaking down carcasses and the art of making cured products. She'll be a great help and resource for that. I think that's mainly about it, is make it simple. So that's basically it. The
Okay.
people that you have, you might need to train them to do some of the things that you're wanting to do, but it's better to have people that will grow with you than just hiring some expert who may or may not be actually invested in your operation.
Okay.
Another thing I'll say is, I think a lot of what's helped you out that a lot of farmers wished that they would have the help is you have good character.
Thanks.
You and your farm brand is known for having good character. That's part of the reason why people are sticking with you. Even when I made the announcement about doing these Washington State consultations, there are several people who DM me and were like, oh, you need to send this out to Brianna. You need to send this out to
Yay.
several people, not just one, several. We're like, talk to her. They weren't even in your state. Whatever you're doing down there, it's working and people are enjoying it and they're loving it. So just keep being sincere and genuine. And I think that what you need will come to you when you're doing that. And yeah, now for the other aspects of the kitchen, keep it simple.
Okay.
Just keep it bare bones, simple. And as you're growing that aspect of that kitchen, reinvest in it every single time. How do you run your business in terms of budgeting, in terms of costs? Like when you look at a spreadsheet, what are your line items for that spreadsheet in terms of budget and costs and expenses?
We're pretty thorough, partly because we've been through some pretty major, we went through the Northwest Agribusiness Centers. They did some business planning with us. And so we were pretty thorough in going through and doing break-even analysis and all sorts of different financials. The one thing that I've been struggling to figure out is how do you fit a business like that in without, how do you factor that into your costs? Do you set it up so that it's an entirely separate business that is, so that I'm paying that business to do what I need it to do to turn around and get the product I need? Or do we count it as part of our cost of goods? How do we set that up? Because it's going to be a similar thing with our chicken. We have to start processing our own chicken. And so we're trying to figure out, do we want to just process it and call it part of our cost of goods? Or do we set it up as a business that we're then paying the expenses to, that can bill us type situation?
Gotcha.
So yeah, I'm pretty trying to answer your question. I'm not a really good, I don't understand. It's not that I don't understand finances, but I sit and I make a spreadsheet of every single different expense and it all comes out. We have a pretty good, it's about a 38% margin on pork. And that's, thanks. And that's counting in, that's factoring in every single sale, potentially having credit card fees, every single sale through the website versus in person, because there's those added fees. So I've added those fees onto everything. And then I also turned the tip feature on Shopify. I'll be honest, which was great because that is definitely added to our margins. But I don't include that in our reports, but definitely keep track of every single little thing because it could eat you alive. All those little things. Yeah. Yep. And this past month, because the price of fuel has gone up so much and the loads of hogs that we're taking, our pork producer delivers it back to us as a frozen product, or our pork processor, sorry. So they do charge a delivery fee and their delivery fee went up $150. Yeah. Yes. Except it's still cheaper than us doing it ourselves just because our time is worth something. So we have upped the cost, and we've already done this, but we've upped every single cut has gone up $1 a pound. We've been pretty consistent on paying attention to what those numbers look like every single quarter and then adjusting. And this whey and almonds, I'm really hoping is going to make it so that we're not having to continue to increase our prices because we're now reducing our costs. Yeah,
I agree. And that's the other thing that a lot of people don't realize is you have very few options when it comes to pigs, because around 80% of the cost of producing pigs is feed, literally feed.
Yeah.
Same thing with chickens, any monogastric animal. Sheep, goats, and cattle, and several other ruminants are the only animals that are more inflation resistant, because as long as you have the grass or the acreage, then you'll do just fine. But when
Yeah.
it comes to actually buying those inputs every single month or every single week, that can be really hard on a lot of people. So either increase your prices or reduce your costs. And sometimes you can do both,
Yeah.
right? To up that profit margin. I didn't realize your profit margin was 30%. Most people are chumping out at 15. And I know. And
That's
I'm
not enough
like,
to pay yourself.
exactly. You're exactly right. So you're
Yeah.
catching on. You're catching
Good.
on.
Good.
So again, I think you guys have the right mindset. I would say, so I'll give you an example when it comes to the chicken and you having to do your own processing there. And even if looking at your kitchen being a separate entity. So I have a friend, his name is Ben Grimes. He operates Dawnbreaker Farms out in North Carolina. And he has a company called Dependable Poultry Processors. So he processes other people's poultry on top of his own. But then he also has Dawnbreaker Farms. Those are two separate entities. Dawnbreaker Farms pays for whenever the chicken or the ducks are ready. Dawnbreaker Farm will pay Dependable Poultry Processors for that service. All right. Dependable Poultry Processors will give Dawnbreaker Farms an invoice. And it's really, it sounds convoluted. It's good for a lot of different reasons, but what it does is it helps differentiate and separate the two entities so that you can more clearly see what is actually profitable. A lot of people don't make those separations both from different enterprises, which I recommend doing. Every enterprise should have its own budget, but also your own salary or wage from that as well. Because if you don't separate yourself from your business, financially speaking, what happens is either the farm begins to leech off of you and your income and your savings, or you start leeching off the farm and its profits. So it's just important to make sure that you don't have that happen, and being able to have those separate entities will help you do that.
Okay.
So yeah, have a budget for your kitchen. I'm not sure what a small, quaint, but new kitchen would look like starting out. So figure out what the budget should be for that, and then have that budget and say this: I will not go over this budget. And if I do go over this budget, here's how much I cannot go over.
Okay.
And just have that. That keeps you honest, because there are a lot of people that just continue to spend. And they were talking about getting into more debt. And no, I don't believe in that. So I do not recommend doing that if you don't have to. And you can use profits from your farm to start that off, but just make sure that you have that understanding that this is where that money's going to, and then you can move from there. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So some things that you can think about is liquidated equipment, because a lot of people start with, oh, I want a vacuum seal. And then they get it and they're like, oh, I don't really need it. So Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist are great places to find that on. Restaurants are about to shut down. Also a great place to find that on. As long as you have someone in the know, you'll be able to figure that part out as well. So those would be good options to get equipment that may have some mileage on it, may not have some mileage on it, but you can get it for cheap just to start out. And then after year 2, year 3, you can replace with newer equipment once you have the cash flow good.
Yeah.
That sound all right?
Yeah.
Like you having fun over there.
I know. Me and my adventures. I told my husband if he raises it, I'll sell it. So I got to uphold my end of the bargain.
Amen. Amen. That sounds like an awesome marriage. I like that.
Yeah.
I want one of those.
Yeah. It's a good one.
So with the restaurant aspect of it, the reason why I would maybe shy away from a brick and mortar place, I'm not sure if you're thinking of, I want a restaurant on the farm or downtown or somewhere like, what are you envisioning when you say restaurant?
I have no idea. We do pop-up restaurants at our farm. And so they're just a farm to table dinner where we have a chef come in and cater the entire thing with our foods. And they are wildly successful. So I don't necessarily want to take away from that, but I know that Ryan has always dreamed of having a restaurant and being able to bring our meats. And that's the other thing too, is we don't raise enough livestock at the current moment to even supply a restaurant yet, because at this point right now, we struggle to keep inventory in stock. So we really, between our retail sales and our farm club subscription program, we actually don't raise enough. We're at the point where we're on the cusp of, do we even raise enough to have our store open? Because there's so much within our farm club. However, that being said, moving has been the doors are wide open now. So we can raise a lot more than we had in the past with lower inputs. I think we're at the point where we need to get to the point where we're raising a little bit more livestock more consistently. And then we'll be able to look at that adventure again. But a kitchen, even just a kitchen, would open so many doors. We could do pop-up restaurants at the farm with the kitchen, and then it would be open when we wanted it to be and not when we had to be. Yeah.
I love the idea of doing that. I've talked with a lot of folks who have been actual brick and mortar restaurant owners, and they were like, it wasn't really worth it. I do a very good job catering, and that seems to work for me. It's very flexible on my ends. All I have to do is bring food. I don't have to have a huge inventory. I can not be open when I don't want to be open. And so I would recommend keeping it to that model, because there's no debt involved, or at least not a lot, in comparison to a brick and mortar store. Then you think about all the other things in terms of tables, equipment. It's more inputs that you would need without necessarily the guarantee on return. Having the farm events where I'm assuming you're selling a ticket at least over $100. Am I correct on that? All right. How much you selling a ticket for?
They're $150 a plate.
A plate. Okay. How many people?
50.
50? Okay. Mm-hmm. How much are you paying the chef?
$3,100 includes tips.
$3,100 plus he gets tips from people.
And $3,100 includes our gratuity to him. And he brings a full staff. So we get to sit and talk with guests instead of having to work, which is huge. Yeah.
In that night, you're making almost gross. You're making $4,000, over $4,000, minus the chef and his staff.
Yeah.
For one night. Do you know that there are people that it would take them months to make $4,000 and you're making it in one night? Same thing with me in speaking. I'm at a point where I charge thousands of dollars to speak at an event. So I'm making more money than most people would make in a week in one sitting. I'd say I'm lazy, but really what I'm saying is I just like to utilize my time very effectively, that I can do all the other things I want to do in life instead of slaving over a 9-to-5 job. So that is really important. I want you to think about focusing more on that.
Okay.
And I dare say the 150, or do you always sell out?
Typically. Last year, our dinners sold out in 30 seconds. It was wild.
Yeah.
It launched in my mind.
Charge 200. See, if it still sells out in 30 seconds, charge 300. You got to figure out where the cap is, right?
Yeah.
You need to figure out where that ceiling is. And so don't be afraid to increase that price, because, okay, just think about this for a minute. You're charging 150 in 30 seconds, sold out. Great. So what if you charge 300? Oh, and there 50 people showed up. That's $15,000, and you're still paying that guy the same price. So then you got $10,000 in an event. Yeah. Brianna, do you hear me? Girl, no. Do you hear me?
Yeah. They're magical. They are literally the most magical events. People love them. It has just been, we have one gal who actually hired us. I released the dates and she booked all 50 tickets for one dinner herself. And so she is having her her 70th birthday. She said it's on her 70th birthday. She wants all the tickets. So I know. So I feel like we have a niche in here that we don't even have to open a brick and mortar restaurant. We could just have a pop-up restaurant on the dates that work for us. And yeah.
See, it's similar to that syndrome that Joel Salatin, not that it was his intention to create, but that a lot of people got in the farming. Oh, I want to be just like Joel. I just want to be just like Joel. And I know Joel Salatin, and his context is very different from many of the farmers. And that's the stuff that people do not pick up on. Same thing with being a restaurant owner. People do not pick up on all the work that goes into owning an actual restaurant, brick and mortar style, compared to like folks who are doing what you're doing. Again, I am not afraid to make money. I do not want you to be afraid to make money.
Okay.
We can talk about selling pork and stuff like that all day long, but if you can make $15,000 a night, how long would it take you to make $15,000 off of pork?
Quite a while.
And you can make that much money on one pig. Maybe not even the whole pig, 50 pigs. Well, you probably want one pig for that, right? That pig is worth $15,000 now. Instead
I didn't
of
think about that.
No, that's what I'm telling you. Yeah. Yeah. If you sold out in 30 seconds, my recommendation is at least go up to 250. Test that out. If that still sells out within a day, go to 300.
Okay.
That sound good?
Yeah.
Well, people gonna think I'm crazy, but I'm not. I'm just like, why do we have to be poor?
It's not sustainable if you're broke.
Thank you. Thank you. We get this. We get this. So yeah, how are we feeling? How are you feeling?
Good. You're gonna have to come have dinner with us.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Actually, I did apply to the TILF conference. So we'll see if they let me in the door on that one.
Oh, cool.
And then I've been working with COF to do some grant stuff with them. And if they win their grant, then I'll be out to see Katie at Alluvial Farms.
Oh, yeah. She's not very far.
Definitely be a start. You'll definitely be a stop.
I love it.
So yeah,
it's amazing.
It is.
Yeah, they've done one of the things that they've done that I really want to duplicate is their composting system that they just put in. Yeah, because the farm that we're moving to does have a lagoon.
Right, because of dairy.
It was a dairy, so we want to make sure that we're effectively using that and using it as a marketing tool too, that what we're doing with it is environmentally conscious. And Alluvial Farms they've always had that kind of in the forefront of their minds. So their new compost system, I cannot wait to see. It's mind blowing.
Don't get geeked out. Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Did you have any more questions or ideas? Are you like, let me spitball this and see what he might have to say?
I don't think so at the moment.
Okay.
I'm excited to see that I don't need to say, let me go see if this whey and almonds will work. We can, because that is a huge weight off our shoulders. That's a lot of our price per ton on bulk feed. So we get it delivered in, I think, 6-ton quantities. Our bulk feed just went up to, is it $4.80 a ton now, Ryan? Oh, I think he might've gone outside. It's $4.80 a ton.
On non-GMO?
No, that's conventional.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So this is the piece of this puzzle is that we've always been, I don't want to say we've always been because we've never advertised it, but we had been organically fed non-GMO for a long time. And then we paired with another feed mill that we love. They do a really great job. They custom blended feed for us that had minerals specific to our location. And they just did a really nice job. And they are sourcing a lot of their ingredients, not all of them, as non-GMO. We went that direction just because the prices were continuing to go up and we weren't using it as an advertising tool anyway. And we also saw really consistent product across the board. It wasn't a big change in what we saw, but at $4.80 a ton, and that's blown into our grain bins. So if we could, the new farm that we're at does offer us opportunities to lease additional ground where we can grow our own crops. We can contract with other farmers to custom grow crops for us. So we're trying to figure out in the next 2 years what that's going to look like and what things we would like them to grow and what, I know. It's expensive.
But you know what? You figuring it out.
Yeah. Yeah, at least we're not sitting here saying, oh, it's getting too expensive, we're going to close. No, we figured out that no, it's getting expensive. So the customer needs to see that too. So definitely not us being greedy. It's us being paid for the product we produce.
Amen. And you just keep it that simple.
Yeah.
And people who don't want to be on board with that, they can go kick rocks. Now, you don't tell them that, but I'm just like, we're sorry, we're moving in a different direction, and I guess we have to part ways, but still feel free to come back every now and then.
Yeah.
We might not be able to afford our product every week, but maybe every other week.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's an option. Well, I ain't got nothing else to say to you other than
I'm so grateful for your time.
I appreciate that. And again, that workshop, or not workshop, that food event, $250 starting out.
Just run with it, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if it sells out within a day, start at 300.
Okay.
There are too many rich people with nothing to do but to spend money because they ain't got no kids. Their dog is their kid, and they need something to do. Why don't you give them an opportunity to do that, and you get paid well for that? Amen.
Right.
All right. Other than that, feel free to just email me back if you have any questions. I want to send you an email with the contacts for the people I had mentioned, plus the InPan website. I think you wrote that down, but I'll put that in the email anyway. Yep. Just real quick recap. What are some things that you took away from this consultation so far?
Feed was a big one. And then of course, deli sliced ham. I wrote that all over in capital. That's all over. Shipping meat to someone who can do the value added products now, so that in the meantime, while we're waiting to possibly open a kitchen, that we have an option for that. That I don't know why I've never thought of that before, which actually I'm scratching my brain about it. We already ship our meat. Why wouldn't I do that? And then my favorite thing that I think that we talked about definitely was finding the value. And I never put two and two together between how much a pig is worth at the dinners versus how much they're worth in our store. So I'm definitely making a lot more on that pig by cooking it ourselves and feeding it to people than I am. And those dinners they go viral. So they're a huge, they go nuts. So everyone who's here tags us, puts us on Instagram, puts us on TikTok, puts us on all these different places that I don't have. Yeah. So even the expense that went into it, because now we own all of the supplies to do it. Yeah. We own the tables, the chairs, the linens, the plates, the cups, the cutlery, everything. So the only variable expense we have is just the cost of producing the meat to have it there. But obviously $15,000 is a lot more than $2,400.
So let's also quickly do the math on this. It's
okay.
For a ticket that's $300, you got $15,000 for 50 people. Let's times that by, let's see, 10 weekends. You now have $150,000.
Just by hosting by dinner.
10 dinners.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty sure that's worth it.
I think it is too, don't you? Cool.
Yeah.
The smile on your face, man.
I know. I'm like, whoo. I know. My husband Ryan loves these dinners because he loves to eat the food. So he is all about, because we do past appetizers. So when they arrive, the minute they arrive, they get a map of the farm that shows them where all the animals are, because most of them you can't just see. And then we also have servers walking around with the appetizers. And so the minute they arrive, they get a glass of wine and appetizers. And it's an experience, like an ultimate foodie experience.
And save me a ticket. I'll
be a
part of that.
Come sit.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I would like to experience that. Let me know next time your series for this season until the end of the year or next year, and I want to make sure that I get to go to one of those. Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Well, other than that, I'll let you go.
Okay.
I appreciate you showing up, and I think that this session is going to blow people's minds.
Yay.
In a positive way. And I think the stuff that you're doing is very exemplary. Again, you have good character, and the best marketing tool out of all is having good character. So
Thank you.
Keep it up.
Thank you very much. All right, I'll let you go. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Bye, Brianna.
Bye. See you later.
Folks, what are you waiting for? $15,000. for one pig. And if you do that 10 times a year, $150,000. What if you could do that too? Some of you are wondering, how am I going to make money off this farming operation? I don't see a way to make money. I might lose the farm. I'm going more into debt. What if you didn't have to do that? Again, I'm telling folks that the future of pasture-raised meats is not going to be necessarily in raw cuts, not in wholes and halves. Not that can't be a part of the future, but that can't be the bulk of the future for small-scale agricultures, for small-scale piggeries, for small-scale grass-fed beef operations. I don't believe that. I believe that what's really going to allow people to be successful, to get both couples onto the farm working full-time, is high-end value-added products, whether it's soaps and salves, whether it's charcuterie, whatever it might be, right? Snack sets, that on top of that as well. Or agritourism, agroeducation, such as those dinners and events that Brianna was mentioning. She was making not really that much money off of the tickets that she was selling. She was making good money, but she didn't realize how much more money she could make. So I helped her think about turning something where she was grossing $6,000 into something that she now could gross into $15,000 for one night. I believe that she'll be successful in that, and I believe that you can be successful in that too. All right, if you feel like, man, I need help, I need some help, Pork Rhyne. Fear not, you can go to my website. I have services for consultations. Feel free to book one, and we're gonna have a good time. I love helping people. I love helping farmers, and I think this is such a good opportunity. So if this helped you, this consultation video helped you, please comment below what you learned, some takeaways from the event that we were talking about. What are some questions that you have that maybe weren't answered in this consultation video? I'd love to hear it. I'd love to be able to answer it as well. I hope you enjoyed your time watching these videos. Definitely check out the other consultation videos I have on the playlist. Those would be an awesome time for you to just study and learn. If you're new into farming and you haven't necessarily started a business out of it, but you're curious about it, some of the hurdles that farmers today are experiencing, as well as their successes. But if you already have a business, again, this will be very helpful for you to think or rethink some of the things that you're currently doing today. So with that, I'll pass. I hope you have a good day. And again, check out our videos. Again, we have consultation videos, playlists that you can watch as well. God bless, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.